Volleyball experienced exponential growth last season, and 2024 aims to showcase the sport even more. It's an exciting time across our state where volleyball reigns supreme. Fall camp is in full swing, and tonight we preview the season, digging into several programs across the state, including the perennial national powers, Creighton and Nebraska. Hello and welcome to a Nebraska Public Media sports special on the state of volleyball in Nebraska. I'm your host, Anna Bellinghausen, and coming up later in the show, we visit with Creighton head coach Kirsten Bernthal Booth, and we'll also be joined by Matt Buttermore of Omaha, coaches from Division II and powerhouses Wayne State and Nebraska Kearney, the head coach of the Omaha Supernovas. But first, we're pleased to be joined in studio by four-time national championship head coach John Cook. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Anna. It's an honor to be here.
Appreciate it. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, and we have to start off with the 2023 season. And I know you told your team you have to be the most motivated team out there. How do you balance looking back at last year's loss versus trying to keep that motivation coming into 2024?
Well, we're kind of using that, how we ended our season wasn't great. We didn't play great, and there's a couple ways you can end your season. You can win. If you lose, you want to play your best, and it came up short, but when we played the way we did, hasn't felt good ever since then. So I think there's a drive and motivation that, we want to try to have another opportunity to prove what we can do and play our best match in the finals.
Well, there's plenty of opportunities to do that in the Big Ten, especially with the realigned conference. What are your views on that and how that adds so much more competition to volleyball?
Well, the Big Ten is going to be a brutal schedule, and it's going to really test teams, and you're going to have to be very resilient and have a lot of grit. And I'm just looking at people's schedules, and adding those four teams in the West Coast is not easy for them or for us or the other Big Ten teams. But it's going to be the premier conference, and I think it's going to be really exciting for fans. And we're playing every night but Mondays. So it's going to be like Big Ten volleyball almost every night of the week and on Sundays. And then now we're going to be on NBC, ABC, and it's really becoming big time. And it doesn't feel like the old Big Ten or the old Big 12 anymore. This feels like a whole new adventure. Okay, well, one of the biggest storylines of the off season maybe not has to do with volleyball, but rather your horse, Rev. Can you give us an update on that front? Rev is living the country club life in Alta, Wyoming right now. He has a nice big pasture with beautiful grass out there. Flies aren't very bad up in Wyoming, and there's no mosquitoes. But he's doing great. I was up there a few weeks ago and got to ride him, and my son's riding him now. But yeah, he's a great horse, and he's loving the attention, and he loves. Because he was on a ranch, and those ranch horses are just kind of kicked out there, or they don't have the best lifestyle. Now he's got the country club life, so he's enjoying it. I love it. All right, well, one of the other big storylines of the offseason, your contract was extended through 2029. Coach, I'm just curious though, you could retire and be one of the most decorated coaches of all time, but you decided to keep coaching. Why? First of all, I love this group. I love our leaders. I love the group. I'm having as much fun coaching as I've ever had. I'm in this decade of my life right now, which is in the 60s. We've played for 4 national championships in the last 7 years. I've never had a run that good. So I feel like if you go to the School of Education, they did a big research paper. They call it the Wonder Years. And as you get to a certain point where you just kind of have wisdom, you have experience, kind of better feel what to do and when to do it and things like that. So I'm really, really enjoying it. And I'm going to give credit to our team because I've got a really awesome group of young women who want to be great, and they're working really hard. And I've got an awesome staff, and now Jordan's back. And I know she's just an inspiration to be around every day. Well, you have to be excited because last season you had 0 seniors, and now you go to a team with so many experienced sophomores.
with national championship experience now and 6 seniors. How have you seen that maturity shine through so far?
Yeah, it does feel like we have a veteran team, and what I've noticed is we know how to take care of business. What I am seeing though is they've got really high standards, so I see some frustration once in a while when they're not hitting them. But what's really cool is our 2 freshmen, Olivia and Skylar. I mean, they are right there with everybody, just playing great. So you feel like you've got this very veteran team, and those 2, it's not like, oh, those guys are freshmen, they're doing really, really well. So I think that's helped them to be able to go in there and perform at a high level and compete really hard. But yeah, it does feel like, Lexi's been there 4 years, and so I don't know, they're just kind of, they take care of business now. They kind of know what to do before we ask them.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Lexi's been there 4 years. How has she led this team so well with so much grace and joy?
Well, she loves volleyball, and I think she eats, sleeps, dreams volleyball, and she's got a great personality. She's somebody you can't say no to, or you can't, it's whatever she says, okay, Lexi, we'll do it. And we understand, Lexi, let's go. And so she's just got that a way about her that she's able to communicate really well with people and make them uplift them. Mm-hmm. And that's why they asked me in the Big Ten Media Days, who's the funniest person? Of course, Lindsay and Kennedy are there, and they think they're the funniest. But I said, no, Lexi, because every time you have a conversation with her, whether it's a good conversation, bad conversation, she's smiling. So she's just a happy kid.
How about the 2 transfers you bring in Taylor Landfair and Layla Blackwell? What do you hope they bring to this team?
Well, Layla is emerging and getting comfortable in how we do things, and she's just blossoming in front of our eyes. It's been amazing in just 2 weeks now, where she started and where she is now. And I think anytime you get an athlete like that and you put them around other great athletes, that's the best. They improve the fastest when they're around these other great athletes because they know how they have to go. And Taylor just does things that nobody else can do. I mean, she's 6'4", hits really high. She's really smooth, and she's got a lot of experience. She sees the block really well. She does everything really well. And of course, she's still trying to figure things out. And we train a little bit differently than she did at Minnesota. But I think she's really enjoying it. The other night, she gave her speech on why she plays volleyball. We asked them for their why, and she pulls out her phone, and it's literally like a page and a half. She said it took her a couple hours to write it all out. I mean, I was blown away, and I think our team was too, how much all this means to her. So that validates everything, that this was a good decision, and Layla is just a great fit. It feels like Layla's been here for 4 years. I don't know, she's just that kind of personality as well. Girls love her, and she gets along with everybody. And I actually called Lauren Stiverns today and said, hey, Lauren, because Lauren just got back into Nebraska, and she's going to be training. And I said, hey, will you spend time with Layla? She goes, Coach, I already am. So they've been talking all summer and hanging out, and because I want Lauren to kind of help her, with the transition to Nebraska.
How about your young setter in Bergen Riley, too? I know she spoke yesterday at the press conference and talking about how she feels so much more free. How have you seen her evolve as a setter? She's just got her freshman year out of the way. She knows what needs to be done. She had a great experience with USA, played a really high level. I mean, they hit crazy numbers. I just think she's a year older, wiser, and really confident now. And she's gone to another level. In the outside hitter position group, I think we'll have so much competition. How have you seen that just raise the bar every single day in the gym? Yeah, it's war. I mean, they are battling. Maybe war's not the best answer, but it is a high-level competition, and we're just rotating them right now. And again, the biggest thing to me is Skylar is like right there with them, and she is not back down. So when you think, okay, there's going to be a drop-off there's no drop-off. And so these guys are really battling, and I don't know who would start if we played a match tomorrow. You could maybe say that for the middle position as well with Rebecca and Andy Jackson. How much has Andy grown, though, just in her development and growth? So Andy last year was always worried about, am I good enough to play here? She now knows she's good enough to play here, and now you just see her like taking over. It's been awesome to watch. And
I think she played on that USA team and had a great USA experience with them and played at a really high level. So I think she's got a lot of confidence from that, and it's really, she's brought it into the gym. So she's just a different player completely. I mean, like I said, all the year last year, I'm not sure I'm good enough to play here, and now I think she's got big dreams.
What do you think that is just about the culture of success and what's been laid here foundationally at Nebraska? I know there's tons of alumni coming back, and I think you even had players do presentations about alumni. What's just been laid here that's worked so well for Nebraska and just continuing that culture?
Well, we have a great tradition, and we want our players to understand that tradition and what it means to be a Nebraska volleyball player. I mean, when you have 3 of the 12 Olympians from Nebraska, we've got all these players around living in Lincoln and coming back, so we want to tap into that, and that's why we had them do that alumni thing. And again, they did PowerPoints. It was unreal. I mean, you guys should be playing that stuff on Nebraska Public Television, and it was really, really impressive. They really, really dove into it. But I'll share with you, we saw the ESPN documentary last night, and I was talking to the producers afterward, and I said, so why did you want to do Nebraska volleyball? And she says, because I want to know about Nebraska volleyball culture. And I thought that was one of the greatest compliments we could ever get. And that's not me, that's not our coaches or this current team. That is Nebraska volleyball and the culture of the state and everything we've done and all the players that have played here. And one of the other things that they were fascinated with is Jordan's coaching here, Kelly's coaching here, Lindsey Peterson's coaching here. And so why do these former players want to come back and be a part of this program? So they know there's something special here. And again, it all starts with our culture and something we work really hard at.
Well, the show's called The State of Volleyball. So, Coach, where would you say that is in terms of the entire sport and the growth that we've seen over the past years?
Nebraska is the epicenter of volleyball in this country. I mean, and this is what I always like to say. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this, but last year, all 3 Division I teams made the NCAA tournament. Think of that happen in men's basketball. People would be losing their minds thinking, what the heck's going on with the universe? But just think about that. And that was one of my dreams way back when UNO went Division I. We went up there and played. When Creighton, Kirsten took over Creighton, it was not a very strong program, and so we started playing them, just try to help build that up. So to me, that was an awesome moment to see all 3 teams make it. And then you look at high school. I think we had 5 or 6 teams ranked in the top 100, and Omaha Skutt was 3rd at the end of the year. Look at Wayne State was ranked number 1 all year last year. I think Kearney was ranked 5 most of the year. NAIA, we got top teams in the top 20. So you see that it's not just Nebraska or Creighton. It's all across all levels of volleyball in this state. And I don't know if you know, I don't know if you're going to ask me about being the Grand Marshal at Burwell Rodeo.
That was next.
Okay, so I won't jump the gun on that for that part of it, but the biggest thing that surprised me is how many volleyball fans are in the western part of the state. And I've been doing this cowboy thing with them, and it's been great. They love it. But the people that know about volleyball in the state, in those small towns, I mean, it just blew me away how big and how important volleyball is, and how much pride they have, even in their little high school teams and the players that are playing and out there. And it's just, so I think volleyball is the epicenter. We have 2 pro teams now in Nebraska, and we've done things that, the stadium match and this ESPN E60 and this show right here. I mean, how many other college volleyball team programs, and you guys are doing it on the State of Volleyball? Where else is this happening? But you know what? People love it, and it's going to drive good ratings.
Well, Coach, not only the head coach at Nebraska, but also the Grand Marshal at the Burwell Rodeo. Thank you so much for the time today. We really appreciate it, and best of luck in this 24 season.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Joined now by head coach of the Creighton Blue Jays, Kirsten Bernthal Booth. Coach, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, I want to start first with your trip to Paris to see Taryn Kloth, one of your former athletes. How special of a moment was that?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Went with my associate head coach, Angie Behrens, and then our former senior women's administrator, and then actually a big supporter of Taryn's went. So 4 of us went. And if people didn't watch, it was right next to the Eiffel Tower. All of our games are at 10 p.m., so it was at night, and the Eiffel Tower starts sparkling every hour. So the atmosphere and what they did atmosphere-wise from an energy standpoint, really at any venue that we went to was incredible. And we saw Taryn have 3 wins. But really, you become maternal to these young women, So I gave her mom a hug, and I was like tearing up, and I was like, I feel so much pride, so I can only imagine how she feels. So, but yeah, quite a ride. I mean, Taryn's story is remarkable. It's a long story. It would be a great piece at some point, just because, how quickly she's ascended to that level is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, her plan wasn't even to do sand volleyball whatsoever. How much did you see her growth throughout her pro career and even throughout college?
Well, I think the interesting thing is, had PVF or Love been around, these professional teams that just have started, I think she'd be playing indoor volleyball still. But she didn't really want to go live abroad long term. She'd been abroad, but she didn't want to do that for a year. She is really academically focused. It was an opportunity to get her MBA, and then COVID hit, so she gets an additional year. And so, she's 3 years into playing the sport, and by the end, she's, on the #1 team in her partner and her are the #1 pair in the country. So really fast. And I don't know, Beach, I don't want to act like I know the game very well, but it was fun watching, and even from my eyes, be able to say, she's going to get so much better. I mean, she's like, every time I play, I'm learning things. I understand the IQ of the game, the execution of the game. So I think it's exciting to think what her potential is too.
Well, let's talk about the 2023 season for your team. I remember speaking to you after you just advanced to the Sweet 16 in Omaha, and there was, tears in your eyes just because you were so emotional. It hadn't happened since 2016, and to do it in Omaha in front of all these fans and just get that monkey off the back, how important of a moment was that for you in this program?
Yeah, I think it was important for us to get there because we'd been hosting the last few years, and so you're supposed to get to the Sweet 16, and we'd lost some. I think some years we beat ourselves, and other years we got beat. You're playing great teams at that point, and for us to come in and dominate Minnesota, a team that was playing really, really well, a Big Ten team, all those different things, was huge. And I do think it felt like a little bit of a monkey off our back. Maybe the players felt it, but I can tell you the coaches felt it, or at least us longtime coaches of, why are we not getting through this, through this step at home? We've done everything right from a preparation to get the opportunity to earn this. We've got incredible fans. So how do we take the pressure off our players so they can just play? And I thought that's what the group did, is they just played the way they were capable of playing, and good things happened. And and then we go and play a great Louisville team, lose in 5, which was a heartbreaker for sure. And, I think that has driven this group a little bit, that we were so close to moving on even further and not getting there.
Yeah, what have been those emotions and vibes around preseason camp and just knowing that team was so close and advancing even further?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a little bit of a broken record, but I just love this group. I mean, they just really are. They've worked really hard since January. We kind of start in January. That's when season starts. And, they've done the things on and off the court, I think, to have a great season. There's always some luck. You got to stay healthy. Things have to go your way sometimes. But I think we've done the preparation to have success. We've spent a lot of time talking. We really lean into culture on our team, right? Like, of making sure we protect that. But how do we create maybe a little bit, I don't even want to say it as anger, but like, we're gonna get this done type of idea. So we've really spent a lot of time this spring and preseason so far of like end game situations of, we're gonna be great all the time, but at end game, watch out, we're even gonna be better.
Well, I know one player that will have a lot of a say, and that is Nora Sis. And you saw her struggle through injury last season and missing 11 matches, but then, picking up right where she left off. Mm-hmm. How important of a piece is she to this team, not only on the court, but also off the court with her leadership?
Yeah, I mean, Nora is such a great role model for this team. I think, I don't know if I've coached a kid that loves volleyball as much as she does. I mean, she gets taken out of a drill and she's like, can I go in? And we've limited preseason a little bit more. It's our longest preseason ever. We have some pre-existing injuries. We have a veteran group, so we've gone to a little more than one practice a day during preseason, but maybe a little bit less. And she's, texting me, what is going on with preseason? I want 2 a days. Like, most kids don't say those things. So, but I think, she's just got an infectious personality with the way that she works. And that's in strength and conditioning. That's what she does off the court. And then obviously in the gym, she's just going to set a tone of hard work, but being grateful. You're never going to have Nora approach something of, she just likes everything. I can't even express how refreshing it is to have someone as a leader and one of your best players that just finds the bright side of everything.
Feels like Kendra Wade is in that same category as well. Another All-American returning in the Big East preseason Big East Player of the Year last year.
Yep.
How big of an advantage is that, just to have 2 leaders on your team that can really set the tone?
Yeah, Kendra and Nora are different, but they're both the same in the sense that they are just wired to love the game. They want to go as hard as they can every single day. They show up every day. They're both incredible teammates. They're fiercely competitive. But it's not just Kendra and Nora. We've got veterans. Kiara Reinhardt's played her entire career. She's going to be a 5th year this year. Ava Martin. Some of these kids that have played a lot, we've got some transfers in. I know you're going to talk about some of those guys, but it is not just those 2. It is a core group that lead the charge every single day in practice so that the younger players can hopefully follow, and they have been, of what is our expectation in the gym every day to get better. That will hopefully reap rewards once we're playing other teams.
And Ava Martin, too. She's not the young player anymore.
No.
She's, into that junior role and a bigger role on this team. How have you seen her grow since the day she stepped into the gym?
Yeah, Ava, wasn't starting at the beginning of her freshman year. We were trying to put her on the right side, and by middle of her freshman year, she was playing 3 rotations. And then, what happened was last year when Nora got injured, we threw her into the 6th rotation role, and man, that kid stepped up. And now statistically, she's one of our best passers. Her serve had been erratic early, and then she became one of our best servers. So I think the thing that's impressive about Ava is when given the opportunity, she has stepped up consistently. After the Louisville match, she was like, she said, I wanted to do more, I want to do more, I want to do more, and I love that mentality. I think she's a kid that still has a lot of growth in her and wants to do more, so that's exciting. She, made the USA collegiate team. I think that was really big for her confidence of saying, okay, I am in this mix. So, I think what makes us hopefully a difficult challenge, and I think we have other outsides too, but between those 2, and then, you've got Destiny Simpson, Nadam Simpson, Sophia Wendlick's new this year, some kids that can go into Ava T-Strake in that outside slot that can all go 6 rotations. So, one kid goes to the back row, another kid comes up, but we still have offense coming from the back row too.
You also bring in 2 talented transfers. First one, I want to bring up Elise Getzinger out of Kentucky, who has experience not only in the NCAA tournament, but also a national championship match. How important will that be just for experience on this team?
Yeah, Elise has been a great addition. Like you said, she played at Kentucky 4 years, had a wonderful experience there. Was a starter on that national championship team. I think the thing that has been, well, first of all, she's just delightful. She's a high energy, you'll see when you watch her play, she's a high energy kid. But she, pretty early in the spring, grabbed the team and said, enough with this, Sweet 16, let's win this thing. We are talented. So someone that has been in the room to say we can do these things, I think gives some credibility that no one else in our gym has. And so that's been great. She and Kiara Reinhardt were club teammates. So I think that made her transition, and we've played Kentucky every year of her career. So she was pretty familiar with the Creighton program and just has really eased in nicely to the team.
And then Penn State's Maddie Bilnovic, what do you think she brings in, especially with that Big Ten experience?
Yeah. Maddie was down to Creighton and Penn State when she came through the recruiting process. So another kid that was pretty familiar with the program, had a phenomenal career at Penn State, sometimes as a DS, sometimes as a libero. If you watch Maddie in the gym, she's just got a feistiness about her. She is, that kid that's just like, let's go, but in a good way. I think the team has really responded to her well. So she's brought a nice edge. And again, last year they were a Sweet 16 team. I think that's as far as she's been, but a kid that has consistently been in the NCAA tournament and knows what that feels like.
How about the 4 freshmen incoming as well? What have you seen from them early on?
Well, 2 of them came early. Emerson Strain and Nora Wirtz came in January, and then Olivia Hausman and Sophia Wenlick came this summer. So really great women. Emerson's a setter. Nora's out of the Omaha area, is a middle blocker. Sophia is a pin, and then Olivia is a DS libero. So, we kind of hit every position. I think each of them have already shown great strides. It was huge for Nora and Emerson to be able to get in the weight room in the spring and kind of get those going. But as far as just fitting in culturally, they've been great assets to the program.
Well, let's talk that non-conference schedule because you do not make it easy on your team whatsoever. All 11 non-con opponents were top 61 RPI last season. Why do you do this, number one, but how important is that early test for your team?
Yeah. Well, I think it is, ultimately we want to make a run in the NCAA tournament. And so everything that we do, we get to determine our non-con schedule, right? The Big East, the schedule is set every year. We get to determine that non-con, and I want to put together as many, as we call them, resume builders as we can. So every single team we're going to play this fall builds that resume if it goes in front of the NCAA committee for us to get in that large bid, to potentially host a regional. And so those are all things that we're trying to give ourselves an opportunity to earn. And it's fun. Every kid on this team got recruited with, we're going to play one of the toughest schedules in the country. We recruit against the Big Ten a lot, the Big 12 a lot, and they're going to say, our conference is better than the Big East Conference. And in numbers-wise, it is. Big East is great. We were 6th in the country last year out of 30-some conference. So we are a great conference. But right now, the Big 10 and the Big 12, the SEC and the ACC are ahead of us. And so they use that in the recruiting war. Well, what we'll talk about is we just flip the script. So our tough schedule is at the get-go, and we get after it. And then we get into a very rigorous, good Big East league with an opportunity to potentially win it if we play well. And go into the NCAA tournament with confidence. So it's just a different order to a lot of those games. But it'll be fun. There's no rest for the weary.
In that Big East talk too, you're always the number one or number two between yourself and Marquette, but how is that a point of emphasis for you when you're talking to these recruits of, hey, you can win a conference championship here, and there's always going to be that standard and expectation at Creighton to be in that 1-2 conversation?
Well, I think it's, a lot of times I bring recruits in and said, have you ever won a championship? And some have. I won a state championship, or I won a club national championship, but most haven't. It's hard to win a championship. And a lot of the teams that will recruit against will say, hey, if we finish 8th in the Big Ten, we're going to go to the NCAA tournament. And I'm like, yeah, we have a chance to win the Big East, and we've been to 12 straight NCAA tournaments. So winning is fun. I'm going through the recruiting process with my daughter. I'm like, don't underestimate how fun winning is. So keep that in mind as you start looking at schools. So, we lean into the fact that we're going to, again, last year we weren't picked to win the Big East. A lot of times we haven't been able to, but we did. We had opportunities, and we won the tournament title, and we tied Marquette for the regular season title. So those are experiences that not every person gets to experience in their life, and they have that opportunity here.
Well, I also want to touch on the growth of volleyball because I know you're very passionate about that. You're the president of the AVCA. How much have you seen within that growth? There's 4 nationally televised Creighton matches and maybe even more upcoming. Nebraska Public Media will have 3 matches. How important is that to you and just your mission?
Oh, I could go on a little rant here, Anna, for a long time. But, volleyball is booming right now. And I think it's awesome that people are starting to see how much people love this sport. And we're seeing, last year we just busted attendance records nationally. That's people, butts in the seats, that's television eyes, all these things that are showing. And the unique thing with volleyball is pretty much all sports, unfortunately, are kind of standing on the back of men. Right? They get that time because men's sports get it. Volleyball is the only sport that is standing, that women's volleyball is watched more than men's volleyball. And we want to grow men's volleyball. But given the runway, given the opportunity, people are watching. The Big Ten led this. The BTN, and I think you guys, really led the way to say, hey, we're going to put this on TV. And people have shown up. Your viewership you have a lot of people watching. And so I think that's the message that we continue to try to pound, is that give us the opportunity, put us on Put us on major networks. You know, our NCAA tournament. We're not getting every match on we're not on linear television. We need every match on linear television, and we need you guys to tell the story. You know, you human interest stories. I mean, the Olympics just did this. They tell a 2-minute human interest story, and all of a sudden you're invested. Well, given that opportunity for volleyball, we think our viewership can even jump more.
Well, Coach, if you build it, they will come. Thank you so much for your time, and best of luck this season.
Thank you so much.
Pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Omaha Mavericks, Matt Buttermore. Coach, thanks so much for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Well, I want to start first on that 2023 season and just reflecting back. It was a tough start in non-conference, but your team remained resilient. How do you think back on that 2023 season?
I haven't been thinking about it a lot lately, to be honest. Let me think. You know, we had a lot of highlights. We had highs and lows is really what it was. You know, we went to the tournament for the first time. We had volleyball day. Then we also had the losing streak. So, and we learned a lot through all of that. It was a good process for our team, for our young team, and to go through a lot of adversity and really, in a lot of ways, come out on top at the end. So that's probably the biggest thing to remember from that season.
Yeah, I think it can all be encompassed by that 5-setter in the championship. How do you think back on that moment of overcoming all that adversity to win the first title in program history?
Yeah, I looked bleak there for a little bit, and I was just proud of our group for hanging tough there at the end of that third set. And, you know, we really, as a staff, thought if we could grab one set, that would be, you know, we just needed to win one set because we hadn't won any in the last couple. So a lot of close sets, sets we were ahead in, and we just needed to grab the one set. And that, I was so happy for that group. I was happy for the seniors. I was happy for all of our alumni. And just, you know, like I said, happy for our young group is, you know, our goal is to get back there and win games this year.
Yeah, now this group has a taste of getting to the NCAA tournament. How will that serve this team so well heading into this next year?
I think we understand the importance of the non-conference even more, and not even just in terms of kind of getting ready for anything, but in terms of RPI, in terms of building confidence against the kinds of teams we'll need to beat in the NCAA tournament, and learning from those and really taking those lessons, transferring them through conference play. And so we're ready for the postseason of our conference tournament as well as potential postseason.
Coach, when you look at your roster and talk about those impact returners, who comes to mind first and those impact players that will really, I think, make their mark this season in 2024?
Ooh, we got quite a few. You know, Ivy's back at setter. She's doing a great job. Ivy Luke. Kenna's back for her 5th year. She's doing a lot of good things. She's playing a lot of all-around volleyball, not just in the middle right now. So we'll look to see how that develops throughout the rest of the fall. Amanda's doing a nice job on the outside. You know, Emily had a setback. Us had a setback with the shoulder in spring ball, but she should be back here at some point. And then she was our, you know, down the stretch leading blocker in the conference. Shayla is, you know, going on year 4, feels like year 7. She's been playing just about every game, Shayla McCormick, for us, and we're looking for her to have a big impact too. So I'm sure I forgot somebody in there. Kaylee Jorgensmeyer, she missed a lot of last year with the knee injury, came back at the end, really provided a lift for our team, and has been healthy all spring and into the fall here. So, you know, one thing, you know, as a staff, we're really working on figuring out the right lineup because it's not always apparent. It's a good problem to have because we got to figure out where to put everybody.
Well, and now this team is trying to defend that Summit League title. What is your message heading into this 2024 season to your squad?
Same as always. Our goal here is always to go a little faster than we did the year before in terms of curriculum. So how are we doing in the gym? Can we learn faster this year? Are we, and the thing that we learned we talked about the 23 season are our values. So today at practice, we're going to kind of grade how we've been doing on our values and these are the values that the team has come up with that they think will be really important to them this semester. Those are really the messages. We know the goals. We know what's in front of us. We've also talked about kind of a great opportunity. We had Italy. We have a lot of returners. We have some talented freshmen. So we have a great opportunity ahead of us, but we got to make sure we take advantage of it, right? It doesn't just happen. And so we've got to keep, accelerating what we're doing, keep learning, having courage in practice, in big games, no matter where it is, practicing, going for it, practicing making big mistakes, and to take advantage of some of the positives we have going for us this year.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck this season.
All right, thank you.
Excited to be chatting with Rick Squires, who's been at the helm of Nebraska Kearney for 26 seasons. Coach, appreciate the time today.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It's an exciting time of the year.
Absolutely. Well, thinking back to last season, how do you reflect on 2023 as a whole and going to the NCAA tournament once again?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of an interesting season in that, we started with the outdoor game and, all the attention was on the stadium game. So we had a couple of weird transitions, and then we actually did break the NCAA Division II record with our first home match. So there was all kinds of things going on before we even played a Division II opponent in a real game. So I felt like our team got a little bit better every week, and it felt like for a lot of the season we were trying to pull a little bit more out of them, especially on the defensive component. But down the stretch, especially in the NCAA tournament, I thought we played some of our best volleyball, and so that was satisfying to see. We were really competitive at the end. Felt like we had a team that, in a lot of regions we could have come out, but it takes some doing to get out of this region, that's for sure.
Yeah, this team just fell short to Wayne State in 5 sets. What does that say, though, just about the level of talent for volleyball in Nebraska at the D2 level?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like Coach Cook says. It's in our DNA here, and that goes from, the 10 and unders all the way up through the college programs and at every level. I mean, NAIA, junior college, Division II, Division I. The expectations are always high, and volleyball is a major sport on everybody's campus and in everybody's school, and so it's also really satisfying when you can have some homegrown talent on your roster, which most of our programs do. But we're also seeing a little bit of an expansion with some of the bordering states trying to follow suit. And I think that now it's a little bit more of a Midwest thing than just a Nebraska thing. So there's great volleyball everywhere.
Of course, there's always a high standard at UNK, but with your culture that you've instilled at the university, where would you say that is right now, and just where you want that culture to continue to grow?
Yeah, I think it starts with, high expectations and continuing to recruit the kind of people who want to be challenged and who are comfortable being uncomfortable, because, you're going to play a lot of matches where the expectation is winning. And so it really starts with continuing to try to recruit the right kind of people who aren't afraid of that kind of challenge. And so we're fortunate that we've been able to do that for a long time. I like the fact that this year's team has some upperclassmen who have really decided to take on some of those leadership roles. And so I think we'll enter the season with all of the same lofty goals that we usually have as far as competing for an MIAA championship and trying to be back in the NCAA tournament and making a run at a national championship. So, it's one thing to say that, but you have to come in the gym every day and, put in behaviors that give you a chance to make those things happen. I think our team is willing to do that.
Yeah, there's plenty of experience on this team. Of your returners, who are some of those faces that you look to make a big impact this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I think, a balanced team, but, probably starts with the fact that you have a returning All-American setter in Peyton Neff, who's continued to get better every season. She'll be a third-year starter now. She's already a college graduate, so she's in graduate school, so she's a mature individual anyway, but I think she's really gained confidence. She played well down the stretch last year. Asher Regier, who will be a senior this year for us, had a really good postseason. And we'll look to her to kind of carry a heavy load offensively and maybe even play some back row for us this year. And then we have a fifth-year player, Lauren Taubenheim, who we asked to play libero last year because we got a grad transfer who came in and played in what was her position as a right side. And so she played a great libero for us last year, and she'll kind of be back in the mix this year, competing for a right side position. Either way, she's going to do something important for us as far as being an all-around player and, especially the ball control and serve receive and things like that. So it's a little bit more of a veteran feel on this year's team than maybe we've had for a couple of years, maybe just because we have more upperclassmen. We've got a grad transfer who was an All-American libero coming to us from Hillsdale. And so I think it's going to be a little bit of an older team, and that always makes you feel a little bit better as a coach.
Well, Coach, lastly, what's your message to your squad in heading into this 2024 season? What do you tell them?
I think we say, embrace the challenge. The league is already tough, but we were dealt maybe a little bit of a tougher break than usual because we have a new schedule this year. So some teams play home 7 times and away 9 times, and the rest of the league, it's 9 at home and 7 and away. So we've got a little bit of a weird schedule. We played 2 more road conference matches than we'd like. So there's a handful of things like that. The league is good. We got a new team from Arkansas. Of course, we got to go there this year. So there's going to be a lot of those types of things that maybe don't set up as favorably as you would like. So we're going to ask them to say, bring it. And we'll face all comers, all challenges, and we want to play the best, and we want to be one of the teams that's fighting down the stretch.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for the time, and we look forward to watching your squad here in 2024.
Appreciate you having me. Go Lopers.
We're pleased to be joined by Scott Kneifel, the head coach at Wayne State. Coach, thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with the 23 season. Your team makes it to the Elite Eight. How proud are you of that group, and how do you reflect back on what a year it was?
Extremely proud. It was a great season. Winning the Northern Sun without a loss was a huge feat. Making the Elite Eight was another one as well. Ultimately, our goal is to win a national championship here, and we really feel like our team was 3 points away last year, which is unfortunate, but very proud of the steps they took and the way they did it.
Well, we have to give some props to you as well. You won National Coach of the Year at the Division II level. What did it mean to receive that honor?
It was a great honor, obviously, but we really, those individual honors, they're a team award. We really feel that way here at Wayne State. I have 2 great assistants in Kim Depew and Katie Morris. They're phenomenal. And it makes it really easy when you're coaching great players and a great team. So those awards, they mean a lot, but at the same time, the team awards mean a lot more.
Well, I know the standard is so high at Wayne State, and the culture is a huge part of that. How would you say that culture leads to success at your school?
I think it's everything. We try to run everything here like a family. It is a big family, and we have a lot of players that are really good volleyball players, but they're great people. They're great in the community. They're great in the classroom, and it carries over to the court. You have to be a great volleyball player to play here, but they're just great people, and we don't do drama here at Wayne State, and they just carry that over to the court, and it's just they're a pleasure to coach.
Well, speaking of great volleyball players, who are some of those impact returners you look to in this 2024 season?
We have Taya Beller, and Maggie Bramer, both two-time first-team All-Americans back, which is in the middle, which is super exciting. Two of the best players in the country, and they're very, very physical at the net. They do great things. They do it in different ways, but we're excited about having both of those two back. We also have Chanity Robles on the outside, who played a key role in last year's team, and she's looking to expand her role this year as a 6 rotation player. So we do have some depth back from last year's team, along with some transfers and some very talented freshmen that are fighting for a job right now. And right now we're just trying to put this team together and see how far we can make it.
Well, Coach, for the 2024 season, I know the expectations are always there to be great for this team, but what kind of message do you give your squad heading into those first few matches?
We just want to get better every day, and we want to get better every match. And, in the last 2 years, I believe, we've lost 6 times. I think there was something like 60, 61, and 6 over the last 2 years. And this team, we could lose, 6 times in the first 3 or 4 weeks. Hopefully not, but it could happen. We just want to continue to get better and peak at the end of the year. We have a lot of newcomers, like we talked about. So, we're just hoping that we can come out. Obviously we want to play well early, but it's just about getting better every day.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate you hopping on this show, and best of luck in 2024.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
We're joined now by the head coach of the Omaha Supernovas. Coach, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. It's good to be back. I feel like we're starting to get almost live again.
And you're wearing the championship shirt, so we have to start there.
Yes.
How amazing was that championship run?
It was so fun. I think just for our sport of volleyball to be a part of that inaugural season, and with this group, Supernovas, that team was so special, and to be able to host it in Omaha, there were so many elements that made it special for us.
And one key player will return to Omaha, Brooke Nuneviller. How important and impactful is that for this team?
Yeah, Brooke obviously had a huge impact on so many different levels as a captain, as a player, just as a competitor, and then just what she brought for the organization and the team. So we're excited to have her back. Obviously, Nati, she's back as a setter, and Sophie, our young middle, but it's cool to have a core group that kind of experienced that and started with us.
And one new face to this team, Reagan Cooper. She was the Rookie of the Year last season. How important will that be to add another threat on the offensive end?
I was excited for multiple reasons. Reagan and I kind of built a relationship last year going into the first season because she was coming out of KU. And so I loved seeing her succeed and be so successful the first season. And so to have her in Omaha now, it's special for her as well as us because her dad obviously played at Nebraska. So it's cool on that.
Everyone somehow has ties to Nebraska.
Somehow, some way.
And so do other players on this team. Can you take us through some of those Nebraska ties specifically to the Cornhuskers?
Yeah, so Caitlin Horde, Kayla McAfee, those two are huge pieces in the middle position. They're going to be impactful, but their energy about coming back is so huge. So we're excited to have that.
And also Allison Witten at Creighton University joining. How awesome is that too, to not only have the Nebraska ties, but also the Blue Jays?
To be from Omaha, and I talked to her multiple times, obviously she knows a lot of the players that were on our team last season. And so to get her tied back in and her just being in Omaha, it was a great fit. Obviously, Brianna Holman's also coming back, and that was fun just because that was kind of during season that I started talking to her. But it's so nice to feel the energy of the people that want to come back to Nebraska because of the sport. Our sport is so special and the network in the community, but to talk to those players that are so excited about Nebraska and coming back to Omaha, it makes it special.
Well, you can see how much this community cares about volleyball, not only at the collegiate level, but obviously it's translated to pro as well, and just the thousands of people that would come out to Supernovas matches. How inspiring is that to you just to see the success in that inaugural year in terms of the fans?
I think as coaches and players, we kind of take it for granted because you're in the grind and you're doing things, but the community involvement and the support that we felt made this special the whole season. And I think working with the young, but also the parents of those kids, and when they would come out and see us, you could just feel the energy, and that's what makes it special, especially being in Omaha.
Well, another special part of this team, Gina Mancuso-Prasovsky just had her first baby, Charlotte May. How exciting is that for this team to welcome in a little one?
Yeah,
for the
talk
organization?
about full circle.
Yeah.
Gina started with our program. She's been a huge piece of our organization, just even through all of the changes throughout the season, and she will continue to be. And now Charlotte, I can't wait to go meet her. I haven't met her yet, but we're so excited for them, and that's such a special time, and it was such a special kind of timing and situation for Gina. So it's huge for us to have that as a kind of momentum going into the season.
Well, Coach, we'll leave you on this. Expectations for this season. What's your message to your team in terms of those?
I think this season, there's always the wins and losses that people want to measure a season on, but it's really going to be the growth again. I mean, we're going to have a really new group, but they're a special, talented group, and so it's going to be building that chemistry and trying to repeat.
Absolutely. Well, Supernovas are trying to go back-to-back. Coach, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck this next season.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
We now welcome in volleyball beat writer Lincoln Arneal. And it's crazy to think, Lincoln, the fall season is right underway. Lincoln, just thinking about these 3 Division I programs, starting with Nebraska, what are some of the biggest storylines for that program?
I think it's how Nebraska rebounds from that loss in the national championship match, too. They bring back a lot of experience. Who is going to step up and kind of take control of this team? And really, they added a lot more talent, so the gym's going to be a lot more competitive, and how they are going to deal with that motivation of improving on that. I mean, there's only one spot that they can improve upon. Can they reach it? And also deal with a lot more pressure of expectations. 'Cause I don't know if that was there last year. They were a very young team, and I think they surprised a lot of people by going undefeated as long as they did. So they got a target on their back. How are they going to really focus on that and kind of elevate their play and deal with the expectations that comes with being a target?
How about the competition internally as well? Where do you see the biggest position battles at?
I think the 2 question marks are also tie into where they got transfers to. I mean, I don't think outside hitter was a big area of need, but then they go add the 2022 Big Ten Player of the Year and Taylor Landfair to the returning starters, Lindsey Krause, who was playing like an All-American before she got hurt, and Harper Murray, who was an All-American as a freshman. So I'm really going to be interested to see how they do that. I mean, and then you look at the other transfer, Layla Blackwell at middle blocker. Nebraska returns 2 starters in that position, and Rebecca Alec and Andy Jackson. How does she fit into that mix? Are they going to rotate them more just to keep them fresh? Because it's a physical grind to play in the middle, and now they have a lot more bodies and a lot more depth that they can work with there.
How about someone that might surprise fans this season? Who would you say that would be this season?
I think this would be Olivia Mock. I mean, as a freshman, we talked to John Cook after the spring match out in Kearney, and he said he kind of had plans to redshirt Olivia and kind of, I mean, they have a lot of depth. They have Lexi Rodriguez, Laney Choboy, but she forced her way into that conversation. It's going to be fun to see how they use her, whether serving specialist or kind of as an emergency back row, and really kind of figuring out what her role in the team is too, because she's too good to sit on the bench all season. She's already proved that in her short time here at Nebraska.
Well, thinking of Big Ten expansion, who are some of those teams of that 4 do you think will be the biggest competition for Nebraska, or what kind of dates are you circling if you're a Husker fan?
I think of the 4 former Pac-12 teams, the one I think is the most challenging is going to be Oregon. They lost a lot. They lost, I think, 7 seniors who graduated off the team, all signed professional contracts, but they had a lot of talent in the wings. And Mimi Collier is one of the best players in the league on day 1, which she joins the program at Oregon. So I think they're going to do it. But also don't forget about USC. A lot of familiar faces there. Allie Batenhorst is there. Tyler Hildebrand, who's a former assistant coach at Nebraska. So they're going to be fun to watch as well, too. And then I think as far as the rest of the Big Ten, Wisconsin, they're always locked and loaded. Purdue is also one of the youngest teams in the Big Ten. They return all of their players. And Penn State's going to be fun to watch, too, with their kind of mix of returning players and Jess Maruzic and more familiar faces and some transfers to their team.
Well, let's move on to the Creighton Blue Jays, a team that made it to the Sweet 16 last season. Where do you feel those biggest storylines lie with the Blue Jays?
I think, can Creighton get over the hump? They've been knocking on the door so long. They have the talent to be a Final Four. Nora Sis, Kendra Wade, they're going to be the ones leading that charge. And they proved last year when Nora was out with her injuries, they got a lot of depth on the roster as well, too. So you hope one of these years they finally get to break the hump. One, can they beat Nebraska? They've never done that. So I think that's one of the doors they're knocking on. But 2, can they make a Final Four? And they have the talent and experience to be able to do that this year. And so I think, can they do that? And it's hopeful that they can.
It's been such a consistent program for Coach Booth. Why do you think that is with just the culture that's been set there at Creighton?
I think it's the standard she sets. I mean, she's very particular about the athletes she recruits, the training they go through, and the level of coaching that she provides. And she's had a lot of stability on her staff there as well too. That kind of it's easy to teach and preach, kind of perform at a high level when it's the same people preaching that message every single year of your career. So they get a lot of high caliber athletes in there, a lot of local products, and they're really coaching them up and to be able to perform, to be one of the Big East juggernaut.
Well, let's move on to the Summit League with the Omaha Mavericks, a team that's fresh off its first ever NCAA tournament appearance. How impressive, first of all, has the job been that Matt Buttamore's done at Omaha, and just what he continues to do with this team?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of competitions, not only just in town with Creighton, but a lot of other. I mean, Nebraska is also taking up a lot of the air in the conversation, but a lot of the Division II teams as well too. So he's being able to figure out what it takes to compete at the Division I level, and done it at a really high, because in their league, there's no margin for error. You need to peak in November, in December, so you can win their conference tournament, because it's a one-bid league, and they fell short a couple of the past years. They could be on their second or third straight appearance too, but they finally broke through last year. It's really exciting to see. But Matt Buttamore's done a great job of building that culture up and kind of following the culture of Nebraska, and really, again, done it with a lot of local products, and that's fun to see when you see players from Omaha Skutt, players from the Lincoln area, players from small towns really kind of build up and achieve success at Omaha.
Well, beyond the collegiate level, it's also very evident in the professional scale as well in Omaha that fans are here and ready for it. Now there's 2 teams in Omaha. How big is that just for the sport of volleyball and its growth?
I think it gives something for players and fans to stay in sync with volleyball, not just from August to December. December, you can go into hibernation and start thinking about spring football. No, you can't do that. You got to follow. There's the Supernovas, and then the League One is also starting to team up next year too. So it's fun to continue to go to volleyball matches all year round and make it kind of make it more of part of the culture, even more than it is too. So I mean, it was fun going up to the CHI Center and seeing those huge crowds, those more than 10,000 people there to watch volleyball on a random March evening. So it's fun, it adds more, and it's always great to see the sport continue to grow.
Yeah, in your time covering the sport of volleyball, how much have you seen it grow from your first days to right now?
It's grown a lot. I mean, I've covered volleyball for 20 years, and just kind of from the days of the Coliseum to even the last 6 years when I've done it more on a full-time basis too. I mean, we started a podcast where we talk about volleyball on a weekly basis during the fall too, but again, all year round we're talking about volleyball, and it's fun to see and connect with fans who really enjoy the sport and enjoy following it. People out there can't get enough, and that's why they're watching this program too.
Absolutely. Well, we are excited for the fall season. Lincoln Arneal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And as the fall season gets underway, we want to wish all these programs the best of luck, and we look forward to bringing you exciting matches this fall. A special thanks goes out to John Cook, Kirsten Bernthal Booth, Matt Buttermore, Rick Squires, Scott Kneifel, Laura Bird-Kuhn, and Lincoln Arneal for joining us to discuss the state of volleyball. I'm Anna Bellinghausen, and we'll see you back here soon on your home for volleyball, Nebraska Public Media.